There's a moment, a very specific kind of moment, when you start to feel something changing inside you. It's not loud. It doesn't come with fireworks. But it shifts you. Quietly. Powerfully. Unmistakably. And it brings with it a kind of fear. Not the fear of failure. Not the fear of rejection. No. Chosen one. This fear is deeper. It comes from the recognition that your gifts, those strange, divine, unexplainable parts of you, are growing stronger. And you don't fully understand what that means yet. But you can feel it. Your dreams are more vivid. Your discernment is sharper than ever. You sense people's intentions before they speak. Time bends around you. Patterns repeat. Numbers align. Animals stare longer. Children are drawn to you. Strangers act strange around you. And you don't know what to do with all of this. There's a part of you that wants to run from it. To quiet the noise. To go back to how things were before the veil lifted. But you can't, can you? Because once you see, you can't unsee. Once you feel what you've been called to, the idea of returning to sleep feels like death itself. So here you are standing at the edge of something infinite. And it's terrifying. Let me tell you something. No one else probably has the courage to say. You're not crazy for being scared. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're not faithless for having moments where you want to shut it all down and just be normal. That fear you're feeling, it's a signal. It means you're touching something real. Because divine power always comes with a trembling. Even Moses, chosen by God to free a nation, trembled. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. He begged to be passed over. He told God he wasn't eloquent enough, that people wouldn't believe him, that he wasn't the one. But God didn't choose Moses because he was fearless. God chose him despite his fear. You see, chosen one, the ones with the real power, are the ones who carry the blueprint of heaven. They're not cocky. They're not arrogant. They feel the weight of it. They respect it. That's what you're feeling now. It's not just more intuition. It's not just stronger dreams. What you're experiencing is a spiritual expansion, a divine unlocking of abilities that were always inside of you. Lying dormant, waiting for this moment. But no one told you how heavy it would feel when it started. No one warned you that becoming a vessel of light also means becoming a target of darkness. No one explained that spiritual gifts don't come wrapped in comfort, and they come in waves of doubt, isolation, fire, and revelation. You're being stretched because your container is expanding. And the fear, that's just your old self watching itself die. Let that sink in for a moment. You're not afraid of your gift. You're afraid of what it's going to cost you, because you already know this path isn't for the faint of heart. It will require you to leave certain people behind. It will demand that you stop pretending. It will expose your truth in ways you can't control. And yes, it will break you open. But what breaks you will also reveal you, and the version of you that's emerging. Oh, chosen one. That version is a force to be reckoned with. I know you've tried to downplay it. I know you've tried to fit back into places that no longer feel like home. I know you've gaslit yourself into thinking, maybe I'm just imagining this. But you're not. Your spiritual gifts are intensifying because you've reached the next initiation. And let's be clear, this isn't punishment. This isn't chaos for the sake of suffering. This is precision, divine orchestration. Every fear you're facing has been permitted to show up, not to destroy you, but to reveal just how ready you really are. You've probably noticed by now that your energy is becoming magnetic. Not the kind of magnetic that gets you attention, but the kind that shakes rooms. People are reacting to you differently. Some are drawn to you, Others suddenly turn cold. But no one's neutral anymore. That's because your light is no longer subtle, it's disruptive. And when light gets disruptive, it does two things. It attracts other light, and it exposes darkness. You were never meant to be neutral. Chosen one, you are a divine disruptor. Your presence rearranges energy. Your voice breaks illusions. Your prayers shake strongholds. And yes, that's a lot to carry. But you've been prepared for this longer than you realize. All those times you felt like an outsider, training. All the rejection you endured. Protection. All the pain you couldn't explain, refinement. You weren't being punished. You were being sharpened. Because now, your gifts are rising like a tidal wave, and the enemy knows it. That's why the fear is louder. That's why your doubts feel sharper. That's why your sleep is restless. You're not imagining the attack. You're rising into visibility in the spirit realm. And that chosen one makes you dangerous. But hear me, the very thing that scares you right now is confirmation. You are right on schedule. Don't curse the pressure, it's proof of expansion. Don't fear the fear, it's proof of awakening. Don't run from your gifts, they're the tools of your assignment. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but don't let fear make your decisions. Don't let uncertainty put your gift back in the box. Don't let your old self guilt you into shrinking, because what's coming through you is bigger than you, and I promise you, this fear you feel, it will turn into fire. Not the kind that consumes, but the kind that purifies. You're not breaking down. Chosen one, you're breaking open. And once you step through that threshold, there's no turning back, only forward, only truth, only power. The kind of power that changes bloodlines now that you've acknowledged the fear. Let's talk about the shift. Because, chosen one, what you're feeling isn't random. It's not just some mood swing or coincidence. It's a shift, and it's happening in layers, across every dimension of your being, spirit, mind, body, energy. All of it is rearranging itself, and you know it. It's that moment when certain foods no longer sit right in your body. That song you used to love suddenly feels off. That person you used to laugh with now leaves you feeling drained. You didn't change your preferences, your frequency changed. That's what happens when your gifts expand. Your entire vibration begins rising like a lighthouse breaking through fog. You start to sense what's false. You catch what's unspoken. You can feel the room before you even walk into it. And while part of that feels exhilarating, like you're finally living in alignment, another part feels disorienting. Because let's be honest, it's not easy living in a world that's still sleeping when you're wide awake. It's not easy realizing that conversations feel hollow, that you can't unhear the silent cries people hide beneath their smiles, that you can't ignore the energetic weight some people carry, and worse, that they're trying to lay it on you. This is what happens when the veil thins, when your soul stops tolerating distractions, distortions, and drama. You begin to crave truth, authenticity, stillness, alignment. You begin to remember who you are, and the world around you, it begins to panic a little. Because, chosen one, when your gifts increase, you stop being predictable. You stop playing the same roles. You stop entertaining things that were once good enough. Your discernment gets louder. Your spirit gets bolder. And the shift that began inside you starts creating ripples outside you. Have you noticed how many people have fallen away recently? Not in anger, not even in conflict, just faded. Conversations dried up. Texts stopped. The vibe changed. That's the shift. When your spiritual frequency rises, it creates a natural separation from what no longer resonates. It's not personal, it's energetic. You are no longer accessible on the level where you used to be available. That's why people are reacting. That's why situations are rearranging. That's why even your goals and desires are evolving. And you might feel guilty about it. You might think, what's wrong with me? Why don't I care about these things anymore? But let me offer you this. Nothing is wrong with you. You're just no longer living in survival mode. When your soul starts thriving, your appetite changes. You stop craving what used to numb you. You stop tolerating what used to pacify you. You're no longer desperate to fit in, because now you realize you were never meant to. You were born to shift the atmosphere, not blend into it. And right now, that shift is accelerating. Your senses are more alert. Your intuition is more exact. You say something and it happens. You think something and it manifests. You dream something and it comes to pass. You're not just spiritual. You're a conduit. But let me pause here and say this gently, because I know the burden you carry. Just because you feel the shift doesn't mean you always understand it, and that's okay. God often calls the chosen ones to walk by faith through the transformation before giving them the full blueprint. Because the shift isn't about information, it's about formation. You're being shaped, not just shown. Think of it like this when a snake sheds its skin. The process is messy. It rubs against rocks, scrapes itself, hides away. It can't move quickly. It's vulnerable. But it must shed. If it doesn't, the old skin becomes a prison. You, chosen one, are shedding old beliefs, old identities, old wounds, old versions of you that played small so others could feel comfortable. They're all falling away. And yes, it's scary, because no one talks about how painful it is to grow. They talk about the glow up, not the grow up. But the truth is, this shift you're experiencing, it's sacred, it's divine, and it's meant to pull you out of every illusion you've ever agreed to. You are being aligned with the original intention heaven had for you before the world told you who you were supposed to be. And that realignment, it costs. It costs relationships that no longer honor your growth. It costs jobs that drain your spirit. It costs labels and roles and stories you used to cling to for identity. But in exchange, it gives you something infinitely more valuable. Clarity, clarity of purpose, clarity of boundaries, clarity of voice, clarity of soul. You'll begin to notice this more and more as the days pass. The clarity will rise like a sun inside you. And what once made you anxious will start to feel like nonsense. What once impressed you will now look like distraction. What once pulled you down will have no hold on you. That's the shift. You are being spiritually recalibrated. Your nervous system is adjusting. Your dreams are acting like messages. Your body is asking for different foods, different sleep, different silence. Even your language is changing. You no longer speak from ego. You speak from essence. You no longer try to prove. You simply are. And that energy, that quiet, grounded confidence, it shakes darkness to its core. Because you've stopped seeking outside confirmation for an inside truth. That's why things feel unfamiliar right now. You're walking into your unwritten chapter. A chapter that doesn't mimic anyone else's. A chapter that requires you to walk boldly into what has never been done before. You are not repeating history. You are creating legacy. And that's what this shift is really about. It's not about magic. It's not about performance. It's not about being more powerful than others. It's about remembering why you were sent here in the first place. You are not here to compete. You are here to complete something sacred. So when it gets heavy, remember this, The shift is not punishment. It's preparation. Heaven does not call the qualified. It qualifies the called. And you, chosen one, you have been called. So embrace the shift. Let it wash over you. Let it empty your hands of what you once clung to. Let it fill your heart with the sound of your soul coming home. Because this is not just your awakening. It is your return. You've probably started to notice something that no one warned you about. As your gifts grow, as your spirit expands and your light intensifies, the world around you doesn't necessarily cheer you on. In fact, you might be feeling more alone now than ever before. It's not a coincidence. That's a spiritual law in motion. Because power, real power, rarely gathers crowds. It creates distance. And the stronger your gifts become, the more that distance grows. It's not because you're doing something wrong. Chosen one. It's because you're doing something divinely disruptive. People don't always say it out loud, but they can feel it. The change in your energy, the shift in your presence, the clarity in your voice. They see it in your eyes, in your silence, in your ability to stand in stillness while the world spins in chaos. And for many, that's uncomfortable. So instead of drawing closer, they back away. They don't understand it, so they avoid it. Or worse, they label it. They say you've changed. You've become distant. You think you're better than us. No, what's really happening is that you're no longer pretending. You're no longer dimming. You're no longer available for what dishonors your calling. And yes, that kind of honesty creates isolation. There's a story you need to remember here. It's about the prophet Elijah. After calling down fire from heaven, after proving the power of the Most High in front of kings and false prophets, Elijah ran. He ran into the wilderness, overwhelmed, exhausted, and feeling completely alone. He cried out to God, saying, "I am the only one left, the only one who still believes, the only one who still stands for truth." And what did God say? There are 7,000 others who have not bowed. In other words, you are not alone. You've just been hidden among the few, chosen one. The isolation you're feeling is not abandonment, it's consecration. You're being set apart, not cast aside. And there's a difference. Most people aren't equipped to walk with someone carrying what you carry. They haven't gone through your fires. They haven't paid the cost. They don't feel the world the way you do. You hear what others miss. You sense what others ignore. You know things without being told. That's not arrogance. That's spiritual frequency. And not everyone can walk beside it. So yes, it feels lonely. But this loneliness, it's divine. Because before God uses someone to shift a generation, He separates them. Ask Joseph, ask Esther, ask David. Before the palace came the pit. Before the crown came the cave. Before the miracle came the misunderstanding. Isolation is heaven's classroom. And you, chosen one, are sitting front row. But let me say something to your heart here. Something your soul may need to hear again and again. You are not too sensitive. You are not too much. You are not imagining things. You are simply spiritually awake in a sleeping world. And that means you will always be misread by those who are still in slumber. They don't recognize your wisdom as a gift, they call it arrogance. They don't recognize your silence as discernment, they call it coldness. They don't recognize your boundaries as sacred, they call them walls. But you are not here to be understood by the masses. You're here to walk in alignment with the divine. And sometimes, that means walking alone. Here's the beauty. Though, the more comfortable you become with your sacred solitude, the more powerful your gifts become. Because in that quiet space, away from noise, away from confusion, you start to hear the divine voice more clearly. You start to feel your spirit anchoring. You start to understand that peace isn't found in being surrounded, it's found in being centered. So no, you're not broken for needing space. You're not antisocial for stepping back from meaningless conversations. You're not weird for finding joy in solitude. You are aligning. You are refining. You are remembering. And what you're remembering is this: your power does not require permission. It does not need applause. It does not need an audience. It just is. And when you start living from that place, when you stop performing, stop explaining, stop diluting your frequency, becomes untouchable. That's when heaven leans in and whispers, "Now you're ready." You're not becoming distant, chosen one. You're becoming distinct. There's a difference. And it's not just people who notice. The spirit realm sees it too. Angels gather closer. Darkness steps back. The atmosphere bends. Because when someone truly steps into their power, all of creation recognizes it. That's why this part of your journey feels so intense. It's not because you're off track. It's because you're finally on it, and the path of purpose. It always gets narrower as you get closer to the center. Not because it's punishing, but because not everything can come with you. Not everyone can walk beside you. Not every habit can survive the fire. You are being distilled, refined, clarified. So when people fade, let them. When connections shift, bless them. When you feel alone, remember some journeys require silence to hear the next instruction. And don't forget, every chosen one in history had to pass through the wilderness alone before walking in their divine assignment. It's not a punishment. It's a rite of passage. So instead of fearing the loneliness, lean into it. Ask, what am I being prepared for? Ask, what is this silence trying to teach me? Ask, who am I becoming when no one is watching? Because that version of you, the one being forged in quiet, purified by solitude, anointed in secret, that version is the real you. And soon, the world will see what heaven has been building behind the veil. But until then, let the silence do its sacred work. You're not alone. You're just ahead of your time. You're beginning to notice something strange now, aren't you? The more your gifts grow, the less you recognize yourself. You look in the mirror, and it's still your face. But the eyes staring back at you, those eyes have changed. There's a depth there, a fire, a knowing. You catch your reflection and almost do a double take. Because somewhere inside, you realize you're not who you used to be, not even close. And that feeling can be deeply disorienting. You're shedding identities, roles, attachments that used to define you. Old goals don't excite you. Old relationships feel foreign. You walk into rooms that once felt like home. And suddenly, it's as if you're a stranger in your own story, chosen one. This is not just spiritual growth. This is spiritual metamorphosis. The caterpillar doesn't grow wings and keep crawling. It transforms entirely. It enters a state of stillness, of breaking down, of unmaking before it emerges as something completely new. And during that cocoon stage, it's unrecognizable. It dissolves, disappears, rebuilds. That's you right now. You are dissolving versions of yourself that were created for survival, not for destiny. You are releasing the persona you built to be liked, to be safe, to be digestible to others. You are shedding the masks you wore to be accepted by a world that was never meant to understand your frequency. And yes, that feels like death, because it is a kind of death, the death of the false self. But what's rising in its place is glory. This is why people around you are reacting differently. Some are confused, some are intimidated, some are even hostile and they don't know why. It's not because you've become something bad. It's because you've become something they no longer recognize. People want consistency. They crave familiarity. They get attached to the version of you they knew, even if that version was wounded, muted, and half asleep. But when you start to break the mold, when you stop laughing at things that no longer resonate, when you start speaking truth instead of codependent politeness, they feel the shift. They may not say it out loud, but something inside them whispers, "You've changed." Yes, you have, and that's the point. You weren't meant to stay small. You weren't meant to stay silent. You weren't meant to stay broken so others could feel whole. You are awakening, expanding, becoming, and becoming chosen one is messy business. People will try to pull you back into roles you've outgrown. They'll try to remind you of mistakes you've already healed from. They'll try to guilt you into staying where they're comfortable, instead of where your spirit is calling you. But you didn't come here to stay familiar. You came here to walk in truth. And truth, by nature, disturbs illusions. So don't be surprised when people resist your evolution. Don't be surprised when old circles feel tight. Don't be surprised when the version of you they loved can no longer be found, because that version was never your full self. It was your adapted self. And now you're operating from your anointed self. There's a sacred confidence growing inside you. A quiet certainty, not arrogance, clarity. A sense that you're not waiting for approval anymore. You're not asking for validation. You're not explaining your calling to those who've never heard God's voice the way you do. You walk differently because you know who walks with you. That energy, your presence has shifted. And that shift is magnetic, but also polarizing, because your energy now activates others. It triggers their insecurities. It confronts their inauthenticity. It awakens their conscience. It forces them to look at their own stagnancy. And instead of celebrating your growth, some will try to sabotage it. But here's what you must understand. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your only responsibility is obedience to your divine calling. The people who are meant to walk with you will evolve with you. They will not feel threatened by your growth. They'll be inspired by it. And those who can't let them fade, you are not becoming arrogant. You are becoming aligned. You are not rejecting others. You are returning to yourself. This journey requires brutal honesty. It requires sacred boundaries. It requires saying no to what once defined you, so you can say yes to what God has always seen in you. That means saying no to fake humility that keeps you silent when your voice is needed. That means saying no to shame that tries to anchor you to your past. That means saying no to relationships that only survived because you were willing to abandon yourself. You are not losing your identity. You're reclaiming it, and the you that's emerging. The you that sees clearly, speaks boldly, walks freely. That version doesn't apologize for being divine. That version doesn't lower their frequency to soothe someone else's ego. That version doesn't compromise truth for comfort. And yes, that version can feel foreign to even you at times. You might look in the mirror and wonder, who is this person? But that question, that exact question, is proof that the transformation is working. Because when you stop recognizing yourself, it means your spirit is finally outgrowing the limitations you were taught to live in. You are evolving into someone your younger self couldn't have even imagined. And that's terrifying, but also beautiful. Because now, you're not operating from wounds. You're not living from scarcity. You're not moving from fear. You are becoming what heaven always designed you to be, a living portal of light, a warrior in disguise, a reflection of the divine. And let me remind you of this: the world needs who you are becoming, not who you were, not who they expected. Who you are becoming. So stand tall in this unfamiliar skin. Walk with confidence in this strange new identity. Speak with clarity even when your voice shakes, because every step you take in your new form sends a signal into the spirit realm. The chosen one is awakening, and nothing will be the same again. Let's pause here. Chosen one, and get really honest about something most people won't say out loud. Your presence makes people uncomfortable, not because you're rude, not because you're trying to dominate the room, but because your very existence, your frequency, your awareness, your power is a mirror. And people who aren't ready to see their own reflection, they flinch when they see you. You don't even have to say a word. You could walk into a room silent, calm, peaceful, and suddenly the energy shifts. People start acting differently. Someone gets defensive. Someone avoids eye contact. Someone makes a strange comment, and you're left wondering, what did I do? But it's not what you did. It's who you are. You carry light, and light always exposes what's been hiding in the dark. Now, that might sound poetic, but let's break it down spiritually. When you walk into a space, you don't just bring your body, you bring your essence, your spiritual field, your divine assignment. And that energy speaks volumes before you even open your mouth. Your light starts tugging at the cords of bondage in others. It starts pressing against the lies they've built their identity around. It pokes at the masks they wear so convincingly, and without you doing anything, they feel seen, not in the beautiful, affirming way, but in the raw, unfiltered, exposed way. The way that stirs up shame, fear, and defensiveness. And that's when the projections start. They say you're too intense. They say you think you know everything. They say you're always making it about energy and God. But what they're really saying is, you're making me see parts of myself I'm not ready to face. You're not intimidating, chosen one. You're activating. You are a spiritual catalyst. And that role will never be comfortable for those who haven't begun their own awakening. They will resist you, misunderstand you, talk about you. Some will even try to tear you down to stop the discomfort they feel in your presence. But none of that defines you. In fact, it confirms you. Jesus walked with that same energy. Pure love, pure truth, pure frequency. And people either dropped everything to follow him or plotted to kill him. There was no neutral response. And there rarely is with you either. Because neutrality disappears when spiritual authority enters the room. That's what you carry now. Whether you realize it or not, spiritual authority. It's not loud. It's not showy. It's not something you have to announce. It's something that flows from the way you see, the way you speak, the way you discern, and it makes those still hiding in illusions deeply uncomfortable. But hear me, chosen one, their discomfort is not your burden. It is not your responsibility to dim your light so others can stay blind. It is not your calling to shrink your power so others can feel safe in their spiritual laziness. And it is certainly not your mission to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because let's be clear, many people choose confusion when clarity would require change. They pretend not to get you, because admitting they do would mean confronting their own stagnancy. So they play dumb, or defensive, or dismissive. But you see right through it. That's your gift. And that gift doesn't just make you perceptive, it makes you powerful. You are no longer just a person, they sense you as a presence that pierces veils, a presence that wakes up the room, a presence that makes silence feel loud and truth feel sharp. And yes, that's terrifying for some, because your energy demands truth. It demands accountability. It demands alignment. And let me say something you may need to hear out loud. You don't have to apologize for that. Not anymore. You don't have to water yourself down so others can swallow your truth more easily. You don't have to dilute your message to keep people comfortable in their delusion. You don't have to laugh at jokes that carry low vibrations or entertain conversations that drain your spirit, because you were not created to blend in. You were sent here to shift the atmosphere. You are the reminder that God still walks among His people. That divinity is still embodied. That power can be soft and strong, gentle and commanding, loving and discerning. You, chosen one, are the living proof, and that scares people. Not because you're dangerous, but because their illusions are. Their illusions are what fight you. The lies they've accepted, the trauma they've normalized, the cages they've built and convinced themselves are home. You threaten those illusions simply by being free. So don't be surprised when they try to drag you back into them. When they say you've changed. When they say you've lost your way. When they say you've become too much, too distant, too spiritual. It's all code for one thing. I don't know how to deal with the truth your life is reflecting back to me. And that's okay. You're not here to convince. You're here to live it out. Your frequency will speak louder than your explanations. Your alignment will preach louder than your defense. Your fruit will confirm what your words never have to argue. So keep standing in your light. Keep walking in your authority. Keep letting your energy speak truth. Even when your mouth stays silent. Because the ones who are meant to rise with you, they'll feel your frequency. And instead of flinching, they'll remember. They'll remember who they are. And in that moment, chosen one, your light will no longer be a threat. It will be a lantern, a guidepost, a sacred echo that says, you are not alone, and you never were. Let's talk about something that almost no one prepares you for on this spiritual path. When your gifts begin to expand, it doesn't feel like a celebration at first. It doesn't feel like the heavens open and everything becomes easier. In fact, the exact opposite tends to happen. Your life starts shaking. Your sleep becomes restless. Your body aches in strange places. You feel overwhelmed for no clear reason. Your routine falls apart. And inside your heart, something keeps whispering. Everything is changing. That's because it is. What you're experiencing, chosen one, is a divine upgrade. And divine upgrades, they rarely come wrapped in peace and ease. They come through pressure, through spiritual contraction, through disruption. This isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. But the thing about breakthroughs is that they first require the breaking. You see, before heaven pours new oil, it tests the vessel. Before God entrusts more power, He stretches your capacity to carry it. And that stretch, that tension, that friction you're feeling in your spirit, your emotions, even in your body, it's confirmation. You're being expanded from the inside out. Imagine a seed underground. It breaks before it blooms. The soil isn't soft, it's dark, cramped, pressure-filled. But that pressure is what causes the seed to transform. The same elements that threaten it are the same ones that awaken it. You are that seed. And the pressure you're feeling now, it's not proof that you're off path. It's proof that something sacred is coming alive in you. But let's not romanticize it, it's hard. Because in this process, everything is exposed. Your old patterns, your unconscious habits, your inner child wounds, your unhealed trauma. The parts of you that you thought were long buried, they all rise to the surface. Not to shame you, not to defeat you, but to be cleared out. You are being cleansed, stripped of what cannot hold the weight of the next level of your gift. And the danger here, chosen one, is mistaking this divine discomfort for spiritual failure. Many turn back at this stage. They think something is wrong. They assume God has turned away, that the darkness closing in is punishment, that the confusion is a sign to quit. But what they don't realize is that the chaos is the confirmation. When you step into your higher assignment, the old structure must collapse. Your ego must die. Your illusions must fall. Your distractions must be removed. Why? Because what you're about to carry is holy. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. Positioned for power, for influence, for intercession, for revelation. And heaven does not give scrolls of destiny to souls still bound in identity confusion. That's why this is uncomfortable. Because God isn't just changing your schedule, He's changing your structure. He's rewriting how you see yourself. He's teaching you how to hear Him clearly. He's aligning your thoughts with your true frequency. And all of that feels like fire. Because fire is how gold is purified. And you, chosen one, are gold. This divine discomfort is not random. It is specific, strategic. It is heaven doing surgery on your soul. And yes, surgery hurts, especially when you're awake for it. But the surgeon is precise. He knows what he's doing. So when the relationships fall apart, let them. When the job ends unexpectedly, trust it. When the opportunities dry up, know they were only meant to serve the version of you that is now dying. Because here's the truth. Elevation requires elimination. And that means not everything or everyone can come with you. Even your own ways of being, the beliefs, the habits, the self-concept, those too must be burned up in the fire. Because the gift growing inside you, it's massive. And it requires new internal architecture to sustain it. You cannot pour prophetic insight into a cracked foundation. You cannot carry divine assignments while still clinging to counterfeit identities. You cannot embody sacred power with a wounded mind and an insecure heart. So the pain you feel right now, that's the rebuilding. The demolition always comes before the new design. And this design, it's custom built by the divine, handcrafted for your mission, tailored to your spiritual DNA. This is not one size fits all. That's why your process looks different. That's why people can't relate. That's why you feel like no one truly understands. Because they don't. Your path is not meant to be duplicated. It is meant to be discerned. And discernment can't be taught, it must be walked through. So if you're weeping at night, wondering why it's so heavy, if your body feels exhausted, even after rest, if your life feels like it's being dismantled, don't run from it. Lean into it. Ask, what is being cleared from me? Ask, what am I being prepared to carry? Ask, who must I become in order to steward this gift well? Because the version of you on the other side of this refinement, that version is unstoppable. That version walks with authority. That version speaks and realms respond. That version doesn't just have power, they embody it. And that version is already within you, waiting to be uncovered beneath the rubble of who you thought you had to be. So breathe. You are not lost. You are not cursed. You are in the hands of the divine architect. And this chaos, this fire, this stretching, it is building you into a temple fit for glory. You are not breaking down, you are being built up. And soon, very soon, you'll look back on this season and whisper, thank God I didn't give up in the discomfort, because now you've become the vessel He can trust. And that chosen one is worth every tear. There's something ancient stirring in you. Chosen one. Something older than your name, older than your body, older than this lifetime. You felt it, haven't you? That sensation like you're remembering something you were never taught. That chill that runs down your spine when certain truths find you. That sense that your dreams aren't just random, they're memories. That pull in your spirit when you hear someone speak from the soul, and something inside you says, I already knew this. What you're experiencing now isn't just an awakening, it's an activation. And with activation comes memory. Spiritual memory, ancestral memory, collective memory. You are not simply becoming powerful. You are reclaiming power you carried long before this incarnation. And when ancient gifts awaken, they don't just rise quietly. They come with the echoes of everything that tried to bury them. This is why it feels overwhelming. This is why the fear has gotten sharper. Because the more light you carry, the more shadows rise to greet it. But here's the sacred truth. Not every fear you feel belongs to you. Let that sink in for a moment. Not every panic, not every dread, not every what if that plays on repeat in your mind. Some of that energy is inherited. Some of it is generational. Some of it is ancient resistance trying to keep you from accessing gifts that were once stolen, suppressed, or silenced. You are carrying spiritual technology that your bloodline has not held in centuries. You are breaking through patterns that your ancestors were not allowed to name. You are awakening frequencies that trigger resistance, not just in others, but in the ether itself. That's why the fear feels heavy. Because you're not just battling your own doubts. You're transmuting trauma stored in your lineage. You're confronting demons that disguise themselves as personality traits. You're breaking chains forged by oppression, persecution, and spiritual exile. This isn't just your fight. It's your family's freedom. You were born into this line not by accident, but by assignment. You were planted in this generation to be the breaker, the one who ends the cycles, the one who brings the light. And ancient forces know exactly who you are, even if you're still remembering. This is why your journey has been harder. This is why your childhood felt strange. This is why you never quite fit in, not even with the people who loved you. Because your frequency was always tuned to a different channel. You were always sensing, seeing, knowing more than those around you. And as your gifts have grown, so has your capacity to hold divine information, prophetic insight, intergenerational wisdom, spiritual language that doesn't even fit into words. Sometimes it just moves through you, like a current. And while that sounds beautiful, the weight of it can be exhausting. Because when you begin to remember at that level, you also begin to feel the pain of what was forgotten, the fear of persecution, the trauma of exile, the cost of speaking truth in a world that fears it. That's why part of you hesitates to share your voice now. It's not just insecurity, it's ancient memory. Memory of lifetimes where your light was misunderstood, where your wisdom was punished, where your power made you a target. You're not crazy for feeling nervous when you open your mouth. Your soul remembers what happened last time. But here's the divine reversal. Chosen one, this time, is different. This time, you are not alone. This time, the veil is thinner. This time, your voice has backup. This time, you are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses' souls who've been waiting for you to awaken. Ancestors who endured just enough to pass you the torch. Angels who guard your every step. People you haven't even met yet who will rise because you dared to remember who you are. So the fear, let it come. Let it tremble. Let it try to intimidate you. And then, remember, you are not the same as you were in lifetimes past. You are stronger, wiser, more equipped. You have access to tools your ancestors could only pray for. You have language for things they had to bury. You have spiritual authority coded into your being. You don't have to ask for permission anymore. You are the permission. You don't have to wait for validation. Your breath is the validation. You are the living answer to generations of prayers. And the enemy knows that. That's why fear increases when your gifts rise. Because fear is the last line of defense before freedom. And you, chosen one, are crossing that line now. So when fear whispers, you're not ready, answer it with truth. I was born ready. That's why I was chosen. When fear says, what if they reject you? Declare boldly, they can't reject what heaven has already approved. When fear hisses, you don't know what you're doing. Remind yourself, I don't have to know everything. I walk with the one who does. This is your reclamation season. You are pulling your gifts out of hiding. You are retrieving wisdom that was buried in your bones. You are picking up mantles that have been waiting for your hands. So yes, it feels heavy. Yes, it feels risky. Yes, it feels terrifying. But you are not here to play it safe. You are here to shift timelines. You are here to awaken nations. You are here to break ancient chains. And in doing so, you don't just become powerful, you become unstoppable. There's a moment on this path that every chosen one eventually reaches. A realization that cuts deep, that shakes the bones, that strips away the last illusions of belonging. And it's this: you were never meant to fit in. Not because something's wrong with you, not because you're broken, not because you lack value, but because the frequency you carry was never designed for mass acceptance. It was designed to disrupt, to pierce, to wake up. You are not here to blend into the world. You are here to remind it who it is. And that mission will never sit comfortably inside normalcy. That's why you felt the ache of not belonging for as long as you can remember. It started when you were young. Maybe you couldn't name it then, but you felt it. The sense that you were too much or too deep or too sensitive. You picked up on energy that others ignored. You saw things in people they couldn't see in themselves. You asked the questions no one else wanted to ask. And over time, you learned to dim. You learned to conform. You tried to soften your light so it wouldn't blind anyone. You learned how to tone it down. But the more you tried to fit in, the more your soul withered. Because your soul knows who you are. And every time you shrink to make others comfortable, something holy inside you begins to fade. But now, that part of you is roaring back to life. Now, the divine is calling you to stop hiding, because the time for blending in is over. You were not called to conformity. You were called to be a mirror. And what do mirrors do? They reflect, they reveal, they confront. They show people parts of themselves they'd rather not see. And that's why they resist you. It's not personal, it's spiritual. Your presence reflects what they've buried. Your voice speaks what they've silenced. Your freedom reminds them they're still in chains. And that's why the rejection hurts. Because you're not being rejected for being fake, you're being rejected for being true. But let me tell you something the world will never admit. They need you. Even if they never say it. Even if they mock you. Even if they leave you out. Even if they roll their eyes when you speak from the soul. They need your frequency. They need your clarity. They need your courage. Because you carry a piece of heaven's design they've forgotten how to touch. You carry the blueprint for truth. And while truth is rarely applauded, it is always recognized even by those who pretend not to see. So, when you find yourself standing alone, remember, you're not being punished, you're being preserved. Because not everyone can handle your assignment. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not everyone is equipped to walk beside a soul as potent as yours. And that's not arrogance. That's alignment. You were never called to the crowd. You were called to the remnant. To the few who are awake enough to recognize who you are. To the ones whose frequency matches yours. To the ones who hear your voice and remember their own. And those people, they're coming. They're being drawn to you even now. But they won't find you if you keep hiding. They won't hear you if you keep whispering. They won't recognize you if you keep dressing up your spirit to look like someone else's. So strip it back, chosen one. Strip off the masks. Let go of the roles. Release the need to explain yourself. You don't owe anyone an apology for being the way God made you. You don't have to justify your boundaries. You don't have to soften your message. You don't have to keep playing the part that made others comfortable at the expense of your soul. Because the moment you finally decide to show up in your full power, the world rearranges itself around you. Opportunities open. Doors swing wide. Divine connections click into place. Why? Because heaven can only bless the real you, not the watered-down you, not the version of you performing for acceptance, but the you that stands firm in your sacred frequency and says, I may not fit in, but I was never meant to. That declaration sends a ripple into the spirit realm. It tells every principality, every stronghold, every false agreement, every generational chain. The chosen one has remembered who they are, and in that moment, the need to belong dies, and what rises in its place is legacy. Not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will clap for your milestones. Not everyone will celebrate your wins. But you weren't created for their applause. You were created for impact. You were created to carry light into places where it's never been. You were created to plant seeds of remembrance in hearts that have been asleep for too long. And you cannot do that if you're still trying to be relatable. You cannot do that if you're still filtering your truth. You cannot do that if you're more concerned with being accepted than being aligned. So yes, chosen one, it feels lonely at times. But that loneliness is not a void, it's sacred space. Space for clarity. Space for revelation. Space for the divine to speak. And when that voice speaks, it won't sound like the world. It will sound like home. Because home isn't a place, it's a frequency. And that frequency lives inside you. Let's slow this down now. Chosen one. Because what's happening inside of you is so holy, so potent, that it deserves our full attention. Your gifts, yes, your spiritual gifts are no longer subtle. They're no longer hiding in the background, waiting for the perfect moment. No longer something you only feel when you're alone, quiet, undistracted. They're rising, loudly, suddenly, sometimes chaotically. And if you're honest, it's gotten a little scary. You're sensing things before they happen, hearing thoughts that aren't yours, feeling other people's pain in your body, seeing the cracks behind someone's smile with crystal clarity. Your dreams are turning prophetic. Your instincts are beyond coincidence. And your body, your sacred vessel, is vibrating with information, signals, knowing. But here's the part no one prepared you for. Spiritual gifts without guidance can feel like a curse. When no one teaches you what to do with them, they become overwhelming. When you don't know how to ground the frequency, it starts to short-circuit your peace. And if you grew up in a space where your sensitivity was mocked, dismissed, or feared, then you may have internalized the lie that these gifts are a burden. But they are not. They are a language. And like any language, they must be interpreted, trained, and matured. You are not broken because you don't know how to manage all this energy yet. You are not failing just because your empathy feels too heavy. You are not crazy because your dreams come true, or your hands tingle, or your skin picks up frequencies in a crowded room. You are gifted. But without spiritual structure, those gifts can feel like spiritual chaos. That's why God is drawing you into a season of stillness, a season of listening, not because you're being punished, but because divine gifts must be discerned before they can be fully deployed. You're not meant to chase every impression. You're not called to respond to every signal. You're not required to explain your insights to people who mock what they don't understand. You're being taught how to steward your gift, not just feel it. And stewardship starts with slowness, stillness, silence. This is not a race. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. But you need to breathe. You need to sit with your spirit and ask it what it needs. You need to treat your gift like a living conversation, not a weapon to use, not a performance to perfect, but a communion with the divine. Because when you approach your gift with reverence, something powerful begins to shift. You stop feeling overwhelmed. You start feeling anchored. You stop trying to do so much. You start learning how to be, and in that being, in that sacred pause, the fog begins to lift. Because what your gift needs most right now is guidance. And that guidance, it's already within reach. But here's the twist. You won't find it by copying someone else's method. You won't find it by chasing flashy teachers or trends. You'll find it by turning inward, because your soul remembers what your mind has forgotten. You've been trained for this before, maybe not in this lifetime, but somewhere on some plane you've walked with wisdom before. That's why your intuition is so loud. That's why your resistance to the world's noise is growing. That's why your soul is crying out for silence, for stillness, for space. Because it's trying to remember how to access what is already within you. But it can't do that if you're rushing. It can't do that if you're seeking constant validation. It can't do that if you're drowning in information, comparing your journey to everyone else's highlight reel. This is your invitation to slow down, to become a student of your own spirit, to observe your gift instead of trying to master it overnight. Watch what stirs you. Listen for patterns. Journal your dreams. Sit with your discomfort. Ask your spirit questions and wait for the answers not from outside, but from within. Because the guidance you seek is not far off. It's not locked in some book or hidden in a course. It's in your alignment. And alignment comes from integration. So let yourself integrate. Let your gift settle. Let your nervous system adjust to this new frequency. Let your body recalibrate. Because your spirit is stretching into territory it's never walked in this body before. And that takes time, patience, grace. The enemy wants you to think you're behind, wants you to panic, wants you to fumble with your gift until you abandon it in frustration. But God wants you to master it slowly, through intimacy, through communion, through sacred practice. So if you feel like things are too intense right now, pause. Step back, not in fear, but in reverence. Your gift is not going anywhere. It's just waiting for you to meet it with maturity, with steadiness, with confidence. This isn't about performance. This is about partnership with the divine, with your soul, with your assignment. You're not here to impress anyone. You're here to carry light with integrity. And that integrity starts with knowing what your gift is, how it works, and when to rest it. You are powerful, yes, but even power needs boundaries. So let your light grow under divine supervision. Let it expand at the pace of grace. And know this, your gift is not a mistake. Your overwhelm is not failure. Your confusion is not disqualification. It's all part of the refining. And you, chosen one, are becoming the kind of vessel heaven can trust, one breath at a time. You've probably felt it lately, haven't you? This strange pressure in the air, the invisible weight behind your eyes, the way people respond to you almost like they sense something they can't quite explain. That's not imagination. That's not mood. That's authority, spiritual authority. And you, chosen one, are stepping into it whether you realize it or not. You see, this kind of authority isn't about control. It's not about commanding rooms or being the loudest voice in a crowd. It's something far more sacred than that. Spiritual authority is the kind of power that shifts atmospheres before you speak. It's the quiet knowing that when you pray, realms respond. It's the peace that follows you into chaos and brings stillness. It's the way your words land in someone's spirit like a seed planted in sacred soil. This authority didn't come easy. It was forged in silence, in heartbreak, in isolation. It was refined in your wilderness seasons when no one saw your tears, when no one understood your path, when you had to choose obedience over validation. And now, it's waking up inside of you. That's why things feel different now. People look at you differently. Some are drawn to you and don't know why. Others avoid you for reasons they can't articulate. You walk into a place and feel the undercurrent of energy shift, even if no one says a word, because your spirit now carries weight, not emotional weight, not mental heaviness, but spiritual mass, a kind of gravitational pull rooted in the authority God has placed upon your life. And authority always disrupts the realm of illusions. When Jesus walked into towns, he didn't need to announce himself. The spirits knew. The atmosphere knew. The oppressed felt relief just from his presence. He carried heaven's government within his body. And while you are not here to be Jesus, you are here to embody the same truth. You carry the imprint of the divine. And with that imprint comes responsibility. Authority is not just a gift. It's a mantle. It requires discernment. It demands humility. It will ask you to walk away from drama. Not because you're scared, but because you know your words shape reality. It will ask you to forgive quicker. Not because they deserve it, but because your spirit cannot afford to be clogged with bitterness. It will ask you to speak when it's easier to stay silent, and to stay silent when the world wants you to scream. This is the paradox of power. You are now carrying the kind of frequency that makes you a living key. A key that unlocks healing. A key that activates remembrance. A key that dismantles strongholds just by showing up. And sometimes, that kind of presence scares people, because they sense what you're capable of before you do. They feel the fire under your calm. They recognize the anointing behind your gentleness. They notice that your silence is not emptiness, it's preparation. And if you're not careful, chosen one, you'll shrink. You'll pretend you don't see what you see. You'll second-guess the nudges in your spirit. You'll hesitate when it's time to move, because the weight of authority can feel too much. But let me remind you of something vital. You were chosen because of your willingness to walk humbly with it. God could have given this to someone louder, someone more charismatic, someone with more status, more titles, more accolades. But instead, he gave it to you. To the one who questions themselves but still obeys. To the one who walks alone but never stops praying. To the one who didn't ask for the spotlight, only for truth. You're the kind of person heaven trusts. And that's why the authority is showing up now. Not just so you can feel powerful, but so you can make impact. Authority gives you access to spiritual realms, yes, but also to hearts, to opportunities, to moments where your obedience can change the trajectory of someone's life. That's why your life doesn't look like anyone else's. That's why your path is so narrow. That's why your lessons have come through fire and tears and deep silence. Because what you're being entrusted with now is sacred. So when you feel the old fear creeping in, the fear of being too visible, too vocal, too different, remember, this isn't about ego. It's about assignment, and heaven equips those it sends. So the dreams you're having, they're instructions. The visions you're seeing, they're roadmaps. The gut feelings you can't ignore anymore, they're alerts. You're not paranoid. You're prophetic. You're not overthinking. You're perceiving. You're not too emotional. You're in tune. This is what spiritual authority feels like at first: messy, overwhelming, powerful, humbling. But if you continue to walk with reverence, if you keep seeking divine wisdom over worldly noise, your gift will become precise. Your presence will become sharp. Your voice will become healing. Because you're not just another soul wandering through life. You are a sent one, a breaker, a carrier of codes heaven planted inside you before you ever had a name. And now, they're awakening. So stop doubting, stop hesitating. Stop asking for permission to be what you already are. You're not growing into authority. You've already stepped into it. Now, it's time to own it. By now, you've probably realized something that your heart has known all along. Even when you felt unsure, even when your knees were shaking, even when you didn't think you were ready, heaven had already chosen you. The divine seal was placed on your soul long before you understood what it meant to be chosen. And the truth is, chosen one, you're not stepping into something new. You're stepping into something eternal. You didn't earn this calling. You were born with it. You were already marked before you took your first breath. That stirring in your belly, that fire that won't go out, that ache to speak truth, to heal, to love fiercely, to break every lie you were handed. It's not new. It's confirmation, and I need you to feel this in your bones. Heaven has already vouched for you, even when people didn't, even when family didn't understand you, even when teachers dismissed you, even when friends disappeared, even when your voice trembled under the weight of self-doubt. God said, that one belongs to me. You are not guessing your way through this. You are not fumbling in the dark. You are walking a path that was carved by holy hands long before time touched your name. That's why the attacks were so specific. That's why the opposition was so calculated. That's why the warfare came when you least expected it, when you were just starting to trust your gift. Just beginning to find your voice. Just starting to feel safe in your own skin. Because the enemy always attacks what's anointed. But here's the part the enemy always underestimates. He thought he could silence you through trauma. He thought he could weaken you with loneliness. He thought he could distract you with rejection. But what he didn't know was that all of it was working in your favor. Because pain didn't poison you, it purified you. Rejection didn't destroy you, it redirected you. Loneliness didn't break you, it revealed you. Everything he sent to ruin you became the fuel for your rise. And now you're not just gifted, you're galvanized. You're not just sensitive, you're spiritually sharp. You're not just called, you're commissioned. Do you feel that shift inside your spirit when I say these words? That's your inner knowing agreeing with truth. Because deep down, you've always known this life wasn't random. You've always sensed that your tears carried meaning, that your silence held sacred codes, that your too much was exactly the amount of intensity needed to shift realities. So let this sink into every cell of your being. You are already validated. You are already anointed. You are already seen, not just by people, by God. And when God approves you, nothing can disqualify you. Not your mistakes, not your past, not the labels they threw at you when they didn't know what else to call your power. Heaven doesn't use man's scale to measure purpose. Heaven sees the heart, and your heart, it's still tender, still open, still willing. And that is why you are trusted with this kind of weight. That's why your prayers hit differently. That's why people cry around you without knowing why. That's why children gravitate to you. Animals feel safe around you. Strangers tell you their life stories as if they've known you forever, because your spirit testifies to heaven's handprint. You are a reminder in human form, a walking sanctuary, a sacred echo of the divine. And you don't need to do anything more to earn that status. You simply need to remember, to align, to stay rooted in your assignment, even when the storms come. Because storms will come. They always do. But you are not here to avoid storms. You're here to calm them, to speak to the winds, to stand in the fire and not be consumed. That's the power you carry now. It's not pride. It's presence. It's not arrogance. It's assurance. Because you know down in your marrow that you've been sent, that you've been preserved, that every season, every tear, every betrayal, every unanswered question was never random. It was the refining. It was the shaping. It was heaven preparing a vessel for sacred things. And now, the sacred has found you. So stop waiting for someone else to tell you what's already been confirmed in the Spirit. You are the confirmation. Your life is the message. Your presence is the shift. Don't you see? Heaven has already vouched for you. So walk boldly, pray powerfully, love deeply, and remember this truth. When the Most High places a mark on your life, no amount of opposition, no level of resistance, no demonic force, and no human misunderstanding can erase what was written. Your name is etched in the scroll of the remnant. You've already been chosen, and nothing can change that now. You've made it this far. Chosen one. And now you stand at the threshold of something most people never dare to touch, the fullness of who you really are. Not who they said you should be, not who the world trained you to become, but who the divine authored you to become before you ever arrived in this realm. And now, you're stepping into it. No more doubting. No more apologizing. No more shrinking to make others comfortable. The version of you that once questioned your worth has burned away in the fire of your awakening. The version of you that needed permission is gone. What's rising now is something that can't be contained. And the world feels it even if they don't have words for it. Because here's the secret they won't say out loud. You've become what they feared. Not feared in the sense of being dangerous. Feared in the sense that your light now exposes everything false. You've become so spiritually sharp, so tuned in, so activated, that lies can't survive around you. Manipulation melts, secrets surface, hidden agendas unravel. People try to fake it near you, and their masks fall off mid-sentence. Why? Because you're not operating from personality anymore. You're walking in presence. You're not showing up with opinion. You're showing up with frequency. Your life itself has become a vibration that confronts, convicts, and confirms. And that's terrifying for those who've built their identity on performance. You've become what darkness hoped you would never discover, a living vessel of divine light. You know who you are now. You know that silence is not weakness, it's discernment. You know that isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. You know that rejection is not a curse, it's redirection. And because of this, you've stopped chasing. You've stopped begging. You've stopped explaining your soul to people committed to misunderstanding it. You've stopped seeking approval from systems not built to recognize the sacred. You're walking with Godfidence now. That's still, steady, unshakable, knowing that even if the world forgets your name, heaven never has. And that confidence it radiates. You can walk into a room and say nothing, but people feel it. You carry the weight of prayers you've never spoken. You carry the wisdom of battles you've already survived. You carry the calm of a soul that's been to the edge and didn't fall. Because now, you know you are the storm and the stillness. You are the question and the answer. You are the proof that healing is real, that purpose is possible, that pain can become power. And it's because of everything you've endured that you now carry this level of clarity. They didn't think you'd make it here. They didn't think you'd survive that betrayal. They didn't think you'd rise after that loss. They thought the shame would silence you. The isolation would ruin you. The confusion would make you forget. But you didn't forget. You remembered. You remembered your name in the Spirit. You remembered your assignment. You remembered who walks with you. And now, you've become the version of yourself that used to feel like a dream. You don't flinch at warfare. You don't chase closure. You don't lower your standards for temporary comfort. You know your worth. You know your voice. You know your value. And you've stopped waiting for someone else to crown you, because heaven already did. And even when you don't feel it, chosen one. Even when you're tired, when you're misunderstood, when you feel like the only one left standing in truth, remember this. You are not just part of the remnant. You are the reason the remnant remembers who they are. Your energy reminds others to wake up. Your courage gives others permission to rise. Your frequency sends out a signal that says, the war is not over, and the light is still winning. So stand tall, walk boldly, speak clearly, and love fiercely. You've become what they feared. But more importantly, you've become what heaven hoped. And now, you're unstoppable. Slow down now, chosen one. Let this moment land. Let it rest in your bones. You've heard many words, but this one is for you. There is a divine hand resting on your life, even in the silence, even in the shadows, even in the days when it feels like no one sees the battles you fight in secret. Heaven has been watching, recording, honoring every quiet yes you've whispered in the dark. You haven't missed your moment. You haven't failed your calling. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be for what God is about to release through you. So breathe. Let the weight lift. Let the worry fall off your shoulders. You don't have to carry this alone. You've never been alone. And from this point forward, may every word you speak be coded in purpose. May every step you take echo with alignment. May every room you enter recognize the anointing you carry, not because you demand it, but because your frequency makes it undeniable. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be remembered. So walk in your divine blueprint. Trust the whispers. Follow the signs. And when fear rises again, as it will look it in the face and say, I've already been claimed. If this message found you, it was meant for you. And if your spirit is stirred, don't hold it in, let it ripple. Like, share, speak, connect. The world is waiting for what you carry. And remember, you are seen. You are protected. You are chosen. God bless you.